Welcome back to the JMC Reviews. Hope you're having an awesome summer. Today, we're going to be diving into one of the most infamous movies of all time. A flick that earlier this year turned 25 years old and has been called by many to be one of the worst sci-fi films ever made. Battlefield Earth.
Once we finish mining out this miserable little planet, let's exterminate a lot of them. Man is an endangered species.
Bashed by critics and audiences for over 2 decades, failing to even come close to making back its budget, getting labeled one of the most expensive box office bombs of all time, Battlefield Earth is truly legendary. Now before we start, I just want all of you to know that today's video is going to be a bit different than the usual type of reviews I do. Instead of simply going through the film, I'm going to be looking at both the movie and the novel it was adapted from, Battlefield Earth, Saga of the Year 3000, written in 1982 by L. Ron Hubbard, the creator of Scientology. Why? Well, for the past 2 years I've been branching out beyond movies and doing the occasional book review. I even, through a lot of cool circumstances, actually ended up working as the proofreader on a novel, Bat Pussy by Brad Jones, aka the Cinema Snob. Seriously, open the book and you'll see my name on the first page. Go check out my review if you want to know all the details. Also, many reviewers have already tackled Battlefield Earth, and I wasn't sure I wanted to go through the film scene by scene. I'm not sure I could say anything that hasn't already been said before. So for the sake of trying something hopefully different, I'm going to be looking at both the novel and the movie, and see which version handled this fucking story the best. Because when you come down to it, the general storyline is the same, and it is a pretty ridiculous storyline. At some point around the year 2000, big future year for the 80s, the planet Earth is invaded and easily conquered by a vicious alien race called the Psychlos. Yes, Psychlos, like Psycho or Cyclops minus a letter or two. Humans run to hide in the now barren wastelands, slowly becoming more primitive as time goes on, eventually reverting to a near caveman-like state. The Cyclos turn Earth into a mining planet, using it to harvest the most valued of metals, gold. Because, apparently, it holds the same monetary worth on alien planets as it does here.
I love gold! The look of it, the taste of it, the smell of it, the texture.
Opening in the year 3000 and taking place in what used to be Denver, Colorado, a psycho named Turl, Turl, is sick of being stuck on Earth and greedily yearns for a life of wealth and retirement. So he devises a plan: enslave a group of humans, who Psychos have come to see as unintelligent animals, teach them how to use mining equipment, force them to mine gold in secret, and transport the gold back to the planet Psycho in disguised coffins.
Everybody got that?
The first human he wrangles for this scheme is a hot-headed mountain man named, and I swear this is his real name, Johnny Goodboy Tyler.
You serious?
He teaches Johnny how to work machines, fly ships to move the gold, and even teaches him how to speak the Psycho language. Never once thinking that this could fucking backfire. Using this new information, along with his own survival skills, Johnny Goodboy leads his fellow humans in an attempt to retake the planet. Along the way, it's discovered that Psycho air, which they actually call breath gas, reacts violently when exposed to radiation, the slightest bit of contact, and it combusts. This leads to the humans making a plan to transport a nuke to Psycho and hopefully take out the planet. So yeah, when you really come down to it, the plot is very complicated and all over the goddamn place. There's some parts that on their own sound like they could be engaging, but altogether, it feels really convoluted. And today we're going to try to see which version uses the story better, the 1982 novel or the 2000 film adaptation. The best place to start is with the book's author, L. Ron Hubbard. As said before, L. Ron Hubbard is the creator of the controversial Church of Scientology. A larger-than-life figure, primarily due to his anti-psychiatry and psychology beliefs, boastings of huge accomplishments, many of which have since been debunked as lies, and many shady endeavors that have led him to being labeled as a con man. What many may not know is that before starting Scientology, Hubbard had a reasonably successful career as a writer, working in magazines, novels, and sometimes even film. Most of his writing was in science fiction. Yeah, I know, a sci-fi writer created Scientology. Don't know how more folks can't spot that as a red flag.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
After a long-ass hiatus and disappearing from the public eye for many years, Hubbard returned in the early 80s with what is probably his most famous work, Battlefield Earth. Some wonder if the book is Scientology propaganda, and I'll just say right now, not really. There's a few questionable moments here and there, but not enough to generalize the whole goddamn book, so I'll keep the Scientology jokes to a minimum. The book has an intro written by L. Ron Hubbard where he goes on about how he got into sci-fi writing, what he considers science fiction, and the role he feels he played in mankind's actual scientific accomplishments. This intro comes off as very ego-stroking. The most interesting part is Hubbard describing his relationship and collaborations with legendary sci-fi writer John W. Campbell Jr. But knowing what we know about Hubbard, I feel we can only take what he says with a grain of salt. Hell, his author bio on the back of the book calls him one of the most acclaimed and widely read authors of our time. First time I'm hearing this. Now, onto the novel. When I first saw the trailer for the movie, it put a lot of emphasis on the book being one of the biggest best-selling sci-fi novels of all time. Along with a few positive critic quotes, this got me thinking. Maybe this will be a funner novel than the movie's reputation makes it out to be. At the very least, an enjoyable page-turner. And now, after finally reading the whole book, all 990 plus pages, I can say, without an ounce of uncertainty, this is the worst book I have ever read! Jesus motherfucking cocksucking Christ, this was painful to get through. I didn't expect it to be great, but god damn! I never could have thought it would end up being as bad as it was. These are the notes I took during the first half of the book, and these are the notes I took during the second half. By the end, I felt like Brandon T. Jackson in Tropic Thunder.
Damn, I thought the movie was bad.
So, where do I begin with why this book didn't work for me? For starters, it is way too fucking long. The edition I read totaled a count of 992 pages, and you feel every single one. Almost every chapter is filled with long-winded monologues, often on subjects that really aren't vital to the main story, and characters repeating things that they've already said before. There's an uncountable number of times where characters will say single words in bursts of threes, sometimes in mid-sentence. This has got to be the most repetitive book I have ever read. Another thing that drags this book out way longer than it should is that every time an alien weapon or device appears, Hubbard feels the need to give an over-detailed description of how it works, explaining every mechanism and scientific angle. Dude, these aren't real machines. We don't need a fucking instruction manual.
The ramostat kilowatt capacity is a function, square root of the intermix ratio, times the sum of the plasma injector quotient.
If you took out all the unnecessary bullshit, this book could have been 300 or 400 pages, or at the least, it could have been split into a series of much smaller books. Reading Battlefield Earth made me wonder if this was the type of dread kids of the 1950s and 60s felt when they were assigned Moby Dick.
Ah, lighten up. It'll only feel like an eternity.
Also, and maybe it's just because I've worked on a novel, but I couldn't help notice that Hubbard's grammar is really fucking off. He seems to be going for an old English type of dialect, but it doesn't feel natural when rolled off the tongue. Hell, it doesn't sound natural when you say it inside your head. And his use of commas, colons, and semicolons is horrendous. A high school senior could write better. I'm sorry if that doesn't seem like something that would bother most people, but after actually proofreading an entire novel, I can't help but get riled up by that kind of shit.
That sounds like a you problem.
But what about the characters? Are the characters at least interesting? No. No, they are not. Virtually every character in this book is one note, cliche, unbelievably obnoxious, and doesn't go through any real development. The hero, Johnny Goodboy Tyler, God, I feel retarded saying that, is an overly selfless, albeit dickish leader in a sea of primitive screwheads. His actions lead to most of the other cave-tards worshipping him like the motherfucking Messiah, and he acts like an embarrassed douche about it. He basically becomes like Neo in the Matrix sequels, and weirdly enough, there's a bunch of aliens later on who keep talking about something called the One.
What does it mean, brother?
It means absolutely nothing.
The character feels like he's meant to be a morally perfect Mary Sue, which doesn't leave a lot of room to be interesting. There's a few times where he comes off like a shithead, such as working on plans or jumping into action without letting his team know what he's doing, leaving them in the dark. But what he's doing almost always proves to be right, so it's all good.
Worse than a rabid-ass baboon.
Yeah.
And there's Turl, our ultra-greedy, sadistic villain who, and along with just about every other alien, is unbelievably pompous and excruciatingly retarded. This fucking cunt spends 98% of his time boasting about how smart he is. He teaches humans how to use psychotechnology, leaves them without proper surveillance, and makes insane assumptions without any investigating.
For example, there's an ongoing side storyline during the first half of the book where Johnny says to Turtle that humans have psychic powers. And he just believes it. Doesn't force him to provide any evidence, and spends about 100 to 200 pages of the book living in constant fear of this thing that he has no proof exists. It is, honestly, so stupid, I can't even make a fucking joke about it.
And I get it, his arrogance is his downfall, but Jesus Christ, did half the book have to be written to match his insufferable personality? And the incompetent way he leaves the humans to their own devices after giving them ass loads of resources to start shit? Even after they constantly show they're capable of complex tasks, he still doesn't see them as a possible threat or possessing any intelligence. I think Neelix from Star Trek Voyager can say it best.
These people are natural-born idiots, if you ask me.
There are a shit ton of supporting characters, some of which come out of nowhere and leave as quickly as they came in, so I'm not going to dissect every one. I will say, though, that the only thing more painful than the plot are the extremely silly names Hubbard gives his characters. Aside from Johnny, Goodboy, Tyler, and Turl, we get names like Chirk, Robert the Fox, Dundledine, Stormalong, Brown Limper, Chief Chong Wan, General Snith, Numph, Zit, Roof Arsebogger, Lord Snow, an alien race called the Jam Bitchows, and so many fucking more. I feel like Gene Hackman in Get Shorty.
Jesus Christ, where do you get these names?
It's hard to believe L. Ron Hubbard was in his 70s when he wrote this. With names like this, you'd swear a 5th grader was the author. And you know, at first, for the first 200 to 300 pages, the book actually was a little interesting. It was still bad, but it was entertainingly bad. Kind of reminded me of the film Yor, the Hunter from the Future. Post-apocalyptic setting, evil overlords, cave people using guns, and a lot of sexist undertones. And I'm not like an SJW that cries sexism at every piece of old media he takes a look at, but holy shit!
The female characters in this book are a goddamn travesty. Rin is pretty much every cliche stereotype you can imagine and cranked up to fucking 11.
Almost every female character is either a weak, pathetic damsel needing to be rescued, or an airheaded slut who doesn't raise a stink over being casually groped. The Human Resistance Army does have some women, and what are their jobs? Cooking food and cleaning the clothes.
Oh, fucking hell.
The biggest female character is Chrissy, a member of Johnny's tribe who's hopelessly in love with him, despite him barely acknowledging her at the start. She says that if he dies, she doesn't want to go on living. She ends up becoming a prisoner of Turl, which is enough to raise half the remaining humans up in fucking arms, because they just can't bear the thought of a fair maiden in distress.
Nigga, please.
Also, there's a little bit of creepiness, particularly when we get a whole paragraph talking about her beauty, including a highlight of her breasts, and then Johnny acknowledging that she's barely 18.
I'm dating a high school girl. I'm 25 and the girl is 18 years old. You know, in society that might look bad, but...
As long as it's consensual.
I think it's consensual.
Chrissy also has a little sister named Patty who might be 10 years old, and later on in the book she develops a crush on a boy, also possibly 10 years old, and they both say they want to marry each other.
What?
The boy ends up getting killed, and Patty is so heartbroken she goes into a near catatonic state. She eventually gets out of it, and then later on when she turns 16, she declares she wants to marry him at his fucking crypt. Like, literally, get married to his goddamn corpse. And the priest, the person who's in charge of marrying people, is like, well, there's no law that says we can't do that, so... sure, why not? And not only does she get married to her dead 10-year-old crush, but she even takes his last name. What?!
Jesus Christ, fucking kill me now!
And I haven't got into the racial shit yet. On his journey to build an army to take down the Sintros, Johnny travels the world meeting all types of folk. Scottish, Russian, French, and Chinese. The Scottish characters play a huge part in the book, and they grow very annoying very quickly. They are full of and constantly proclaiming Scottish pride, speaking an almost unintelligible dialect, constantly are blowing bagpipes. Seriously, when they arrange an army of Scots to go to war against the Sintros, they feel it's a necessity to bring several people whose specific job is not to fight, but to fucking blow the bagpipes. And I know it's a book, but they did this so often, I could practically hear it coming off the page. They were really trying to push Scottish pride, but after reading this book, I feel kind of embarrassed to be Scottish and wish I had a different last name.
Ouch.
But the worst stereotypes are with the Chinese characters, who also play a big part as the book goes on, and they are, as you might expect, overly smiley, bouncing with excitement, constantly bowing, and are very subservient to the main characters. There's also a few questionable moments where the humans, both good and bad, observe them and refer to them as people with yellow hands or that yellow man. And there's a part in the second half of the book where aliens, not Sintros, these are new aliens, come to Earth to observe the planet. And these aliens have never seen humans. They know absolutely nothing about them. And upon spotting a group of Buddhists, they refer to them as the yellow fellows in the robes. And it's not the use of the term that bothers me here. The thing that bothers me is, why would these aliens who have never seen humans, know nothing about different races, use that particular term?
I don't know.
There's also an extinct, subservient alien race, once enslaved by the Sintros, and the name of this long-dead species? Chinkos. I'm fucking serious.
This is unbelievable.
Some of the absolute worst elements that pull this book out of so bad it's fun territory to being so bad it just hurts include the sudden, out-of-nowhere reveal of a group of possibly African cannibal mercenaries called the Brigantes, who it's revealed have been working with the Sintros for a couple hundred years, doing back-end jobs for them and being allowed to live in a quid pro quo type of deal. And apparently Turl is well aware of the Brigante and what they do for the Sintros, which begs the question, how can Turl and all the other Sintros have such a dismissive view of humans and feel that they are not capable of doing anything when they have a group of fucking humans who they work with and entrust to do jobs for them? It's shit like this that makes me think L. Ron Hubbard was making this up as he went along.
Anything goes.
The character of Biddy McLeod.
A Scottish brat who worships Johnny after the initial defeat of the Sintros and decides to appoint himself, because everybody's been living in a primitive mindset, Johnny's squire, because he sees him as a fucking knight. This little shit is hands down the most grating character in the whole book. Every other scene is him constantly going, "So Johnny," and butting himself into situations that a little kid should not be involved in, but they let him in anyway because they admire his passion. I just fucking can't with this shit. And due to him being bravely fucking stupid, he ends up dying. And his death is enough to rock the entire human population, which I get what they're going for, but every scene we had with him was insufferable, so I just don't care that he's dead. And Johnny is really heartbroken about it, but every scene that they had together, there was no development of their relationship. And it seemed like Johnny didn't really want to be around him, so there's no emotional weight. You can't just have a kid die and expect us to feel sad because it's a kid. We have to have some connection.
My son is dead.
And that means what to me?
As mentioned before, new aliens come in the second half of the book, and their main focus is the intergalactic banking that they used to have with the Sintros, business deals, and no joke, the last 200, 300 pages of this self-described swashbuckling sci-fi adventure is bank and business talk with a little bit of mathematics thrown in there. I know, riveting. And just in case anyone's wondering if there's any Scientology themes in the book, there is one particular part, but it's small. Around the middle part of the book, they discover that Sintros have metal chips implanted in their brains at birth that are supposed to control their behavior and what they can and can't say to other species. And when talking about it, one of the humans, either Johnny or a doctor, says man had something like this. I believe it was some kind of old cult called psychology.
That's what you call ironic.
Well, I'll give it this. Took a lot longer than I expect for L. Ron Hubbard's anti-psych bullshit to make its way into the story. And because I always try to be fair when I can, are there any pros? Believe it or not, Yes, there are one or two things in this that I wouldn't say exactly are good, but they showed potential to be good, and they were the least insufferable parts of the novel. After his capture by Turl, Johnny is exposed to all the cyclo technology and given a history lesson about what went on with Earth 1,000 years ago, and I do like some of these parts because it has a strong fish out of water vibe, and I like that type of story. Could have been done better, but it was the one part that made me think maybe there's some potential here. And believe it or not, there are a few well-written chapters, such as Johnny discovering what happened to Earth on the day it was attacked. But for every chapter that works, there's at least 45 that don't.
Right, that's bad. Okay.
The only thing that I liked overall most of the time in this book was the character of Kerr, Turl's cyclo right-hand man, who mostly becomes his whipping boy throughout the first half of the book. He's the only cyclo that appears to have any decency, and he's constantly picked on for being smaller than the other cyclos. He's 7 feet, the rest of them are 9 feet, so to them, he's a midget. And I just love how they use the word midget so much in this book with no shame. And he shows kindness to Johnny, which he shows back in turn. And I enjoyed this because Kerr is the only character that's given any sort of depth or goes through any real development. And him and Johnny's friendship was interesting to read, and I liked how it was initially going, but like everything else, it just ended on a shittily written note. But despite all that, Battlefield Earth was a financial success, making it onto the New York Times bestseller list, although considering how many books have New York Times bestsellers slapped on the cover, is it really that worth noting? If you're wondering how something so messy could become so successful, over the years many ex-Scientologists have admitted they were told to go out and purchase as many copies as possible. Something that was done whenever L. Ron Hubbard had a new book out.
Sneaky little shit.
Critical reception was very mixed. Many hated it, while others seemed to like it. There's some critics' quotes on the back that I read with an air of suspicion. Battlefield Earth is more than pure science fiction, it's pure gold. That feels more like a pun than an actual quote, and it just says Barnes & Noble. No critic name, just Barnes & Noble. Non-stop and fast-paced, every chapter has a big bang-up adventure. Kevin J. Anderson, author of The Dark Between the Stars. Okay, that one's just a fucking lie. A pulse-pounding, mile-a-minute sci-fi action-adventure that does not stop. It is a masterpiece of popular science fiction. Brandon Sanderson, author of The Way of Kings. More like underpounding, because I could actually feel myself going to sleep at times reading this. The swashbuckling energy and wonder of Star Wars. Dave Wolverton, author of Star Wars, The Courtship of Princess Leia. That sounds like maybe it was a little biased. This has everything. Suspense, pathos, politics, war, humor, diplomacy, and intergalactic finance. Publishers Weekly. I didn't hear it was good in there. But the most surprising, positive, critical reaction came from former governor of Massachusetts, former senator from Utah, and 2012 presidential candidate, Mitt Romney. Yes, Mitt Romney is a fan of Battlefield Earth. Don't believe me? Watch this.
And an interesting response to his favorite novel.
Actually, the one by L. Ron Hubbard, I hate to think, I'm not in favor of his religion by any means, but he wrote a book called Battlefield Earth that was a very fun science fiction book.
Hey, Church of Scientology, Church of Jesus of Latter-day Saints, at the end of the day, a cult is a cult. And on that bizarre note, we finally come to the more well-known version of Battlefield Earth, the film adaptation. Talks of turning the novel into a movie had been in motion since the early 1980s. L. Ron Hubbard himself reportedly wanted to be involved before passing away in 1986.
Good riddance as far as I'm concerned.
Turning Battlefield Earth into a film became a passion project for veteran movie star and longtime Scientologist John Travolta, who spent about 15 years trying to get it made.
You need to get out more.
Bill Mechanic, the at the time head of 20th Century Fox, said Travolta had Scientologists hounding him to make the film. Unsurprisingly, he was like,
Fuck you! Leave me the fuck alone!
After his comeback with Pulp Fiction, Travolta finally had the clout to get Battlefield Earth made, with the studio Franchise Pictures taking on the movie. A company that, thanks to this video put out by The Unusual Suspect, I found out had a tendency to inflate their budgets to scam investors.
That's cheating. Of course it's cheating. Nobody ever got rich being honest.
Originally envisioning himself in the role of Johnny Goodboy Tyler, Travolta found himself too old to play the part at this point, so he took on the role of Turl. The part of Johnny was cast with familiar character actor Barry Pepper, and Travolta's buddy, Forest Whitaker, was cast as Kerr. And with that, Battlefield Earth was unleashed unto the world.
Let it be said that we took this one chance and fought!
Starts Friday, May 12th at a theater near you.
Abandon ship. I say again, abandon ship.
An important thing to note is that the movie only adapts the first half of the book. There were plans to make a sequel to adapt the second half, but the film's abysmal box office thankfully put the kibosh on that. The film is everything it's been labeled as. Excessive use of slow-mo action, horrible editing, unbelievable amount of Dutch angles, and some of the most embarrassing overacting ever put on celluloid.
You understand me?
Kirk Bango.
I don't know if I could have kept my sanity to be here another 5 cycles.
I will be the laughing stock of the universe.
Oh, friendly bartender!
But, and maybe this is just me giving into the madness, I kinda found it to be a fun watch.
Are you drunk?
Oh, don't get me wrong, it is absolutely bad, but its lack of self-awareness and just how ridiculous it is makes it one of the most unintentionally hilarious movies I've ever seen. Kind of like Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. It's got a pretty fast pace, which already puts it a step above the slog that was the book. While the book was a never-ending stew of pretentious exposition, the filmmakers thankfully knew to embrace the visual medium. Not that that's saying much. The picture quality is pretty murky, the Dutch angles become very disorienting very quick, and there's a lot of bad CGI. We get a scene of Turl teaching Johnny to fly in a virtual simulator. The CGI had been so bad, I honestly thought the simulator crap was meant to be real for a second.
You know, if it looks like shit, then it must be shit.
The character of Chrissy is a lot better here, but it's still nothing to write home about. Like Johnny, she's still very one-note. Kim Coates, before Sons of Anarchy put him on the map, plays an original character to the film, Carlo, and sadly, he is just wasted.
Me? I'm gonna blow the dome. You're gonna blow the dome. Piece of cake. Piece of cake. Piece of cake. Warning. 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 Warning.
Barry Pepper, bless him, he does his best and is clearly giving his all, but I don't think any actor could come out looking dignified with this script and direction.
Have you ever seen one?
A demon! A monster! A beast! Yeah! We're willing to fight to the death for one thing above all else. Their freedom. Let it be said that we took this one chance and fought!
John Travolta, Forest Whitaker, Kelly Preston, and pretty much every actor playing the Cyclos gives a bewilderingly over-the-top performance.
I am going to make you as happy as a baby.
How about giving your old teacher a clue? A mechanic.
No.
It could be a concubine. It could be anybody in the communications office.
Wrong.
Are you hungry, little fella?
Yes?
Do you want lunch? We've decided to keep you here for another 50 cycles.
But it's clear, these motherfuckers are having the time of their lives. It's hard not to be dragged with them into this loony-ass world.
Oh, you're too much! I do what I can.
There's a fair amount of changes here, some for the better and some for the worst. Next to the over-detailed exposition being mercifully cut down, the Scottish and Chinese tribes are thankfully not included. The extinct alien race, the Chinkos, are featured here, but their names have been changed to the Klinkos. I guess one of the studio executives realized what the original words sounded like. In this version, the Cyclos already enslave humans to do menial labor, and yet they still scoff at the idea of humans mining gold.
Nobody works for free.
Man animals do.
Man animals operating machinery? Have you blown a head gasket?
They're already moving rocks, you fucking retards! Unlike the book, Johnny and Kerr don't have a developing friendship, and Kerr is a lot more sadistic here. Makes his turn to good guy feel more out of nowhere.
Did I miss something?
And of course, the biggest and most absurd change. The humans, while working to take back Earth, have to have gold ready for Turl to make him think they've been mining. So, they fly out to Fort Knox, Kentucky, which is still fully stocked after 1,000 years of Cyclos raiding the planet of all of its resources. Something in both versions that is equally stupid is when the humans discover Earth battle planes, machine guns, tanks, rocket launchers, and they still work after 1,000 years of collecting dust.
Guess that's what happens when your ultimate weapon is 5,000 years old.
Despite all this, I do still find this movie to be surprisingly easy to watch. It goes by quickly, and unlike the book, I wasn't really bored. There's only 2 scenes that I find too dumb to go with the flow on. After Turl murders one of Johnny's cage buddies, he has what I guess is meant to be an emotional moment with Carlo, who's trying to comfort Johnny while he cries and mopes like a bitch. And on what I guess is meant to be an uplifting note, Johnny slices off one of his hair braids. I have no idea what the fuck this is supposed to mean. There was never anything like this in the book. And the scene where Johnny and his buddies are reading how to assemble a nuclear warhead, going through book and notes, and this is the closest the film comes to feeling exactly like the book, and I didn't need that. And just like before with the book, do I have any pros? Yeah, I actually have a few. The music score by Ilya Kimiol is actually pretty good, and in a better made film could really contribute to some kick-ass action. The sacrifices made at the end of the film by Carlo and fellow side character Mickey to take out the Cyclos. These moments are actually pretty well acted, and on their own do evoke some emotion. The movie failed just as hard with critics as it did at the box office. It won a total of 7 Razzie Awards, including Worst Picture. Worst Director went to Roger Christian, who actually has an interesting career outside of Battlefield Earth. Originally a constant collaborator with George Lucas, he had actually worked as the second unit director on The Phantom Menace before taking the director's chair on Battlefield Earth. One of the few instances where you can say The Phantom Menace was the better sci-fi movie. And back in the day, he actually worked as the production designer, building the sets on the original 1977 Star Wars. Something that he won the Academy Award for. Yes, The director of Battlefield Earth won an Oscar for building the sets for the original Star Wars movie. Something that I told my old friend Matt Nugent back in the day when we reviewed the original Star Wars together, and he did not react well. Guess what movie Roger Christian directed?
I have no idea.
Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth with John Travolta?
Yes.
Oh, man.
The Cyclones.
Oh, man, I forgot about Battlefield Earth. You bring up repressed memories. And that walked in a deep box, Jake! Oh! Wow, I forgot that movie existed.
Yep, and it's directed by the guy who won an Oscar for building the Millennium Falcon.
Hold on, I'm seeing everything in Dutch angles. The rest of the review will be filmed in Dutch.
Dutch angles and wipes.
Yeah.
Forest Whitaker has expressed regret over doing Battlefield Earth. Barry Pepper seems to have embraced the film's reputation. John Travolta has always appeared to be in denial over the low quality and bad reception. I'm glad he seems to be doing well, but how he ever bounced back from this I will never know. Someone who Travolta and Roger Christian claim was a huge fan of the film was Quentin Tarantino. Which doesn't surprise me entirely, because while he may be an amazing writer and director himself, Tarantino has some pretty questionable taste in movies. I'm not judging, just saying, some of the movies he praises make you go, And I may be getting this wrong, but I believe at one point I read a source that said Tarantino said to either Christian or Travolta that Battlefield Earth was the type of movie he always wanted to make but never could because it would ruin his career. That has to be one of the most backhanded compliments I have ever heard. Two people who have seemed to fully embrace the movie's reputation are the writers, Corey Mandel and J.D. Shapiro, fully aware of how bad the movie is and both of them regretting their involvement, but still having a good laugh about it.
If we ever do torture again, which I hope we never do, but if we do, instead of waterboarding, we should make them watch Battlefield Earth over and over and over. And I think by about the third one, they'll give up their own mother to make it stop.
So, after reading the book and seeing the film, which version do I think handled the story best? You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I gotta give it to the film. And that is in no way saying it is good. I still think this is a genuinely bad film, but emphasis on bad. I would not call it awful. There are a lot worse movies I've seen that have been just excruciating to sit through, and if it was for you, I totally understand, but maybe it's just because I've actually read the book and had to deal with just this odyssey of never-ending, crap, but the film weirdly felt like a breath of fresh air, just in the sense that I was in and out and it kept me entertained. I was like, this is so fucking stupid, but I'm just smiling the whole way.
Very obviously, he has gone insane.
Yes, sir. Obviously insane.
Do I recommend the movie? Yes, but only if you're a natural lover of campy, incompetently made films, and maybe have some whiskey on the side, and I think you'll be in for a fun night.
Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
And as for the book, unless you're a depraved masochist like me, don't even think of giving this horse shit a read. Fuck this book, and fuck L. Ron Hubbard.
To be continued.
Hope you enjoyed this new type of review. It was definitely a interesting experience, and I will see you again, hopefully soon.
and fart? One chance and fart?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure...
He did not say that, but does it?
I keep thinking that he's meant to say part. I don't know. Take chance. But yeah, it sounds like he said fart.
Very much so. Definitely, you haven't even seen the trailer for this. John Travolta.
Yep. With his evil laugh. And the young hero role went to Barry Pepper. Does that sound like the name of an action star?
No.
The main thing I noticed about this trailer, it almost for a moment made this film kind of look epic.
But yeah, I mean, the action looked good. The editing on the trailer looked great. There was a lot of like suspenseful moments with like eye contact, and you're just like, ah, there's so much tension.
But then at the end, they remind us that this is a bad film by going, FART! And by the way, that,
Ended on a sour note.
that, egg-headed alien bitch with the long tongue, that's John Travolta's wife, Kelly Preston.
becomes extinct.
Fart!
Oh, brother.